Hello, Internet. My name is Ryan Ingram, and welcome to the third, yep, that's right, the third episode of the Millionaire by 30 series. So, in today's episode, it's really important that you watch all of it, or you're going to be incredibly confused. I'm going to deliver this in the most coherent, cohesive way possible, but it's a really broad, sort of touchy subject, and that is, what is money? I'm going to write that on the board. You like that giant question mark? I did a really good job. It's like a hemisphere, a half circle, a crescent moon, a backward C. All right, so this video is going to be a little bit more abstract. It's not going to be as actionable, but it is something that you need to understand and you need to work in your mindset. And just as I mentioned in the first episode of this series, don't take my word for it. You need to take in as much information as you can about this subject. You need to verify. You need to just go out and double check everything it is that I say. But on this one, you need to be a little bit careful. You can get sent down tons of rabbit holes that might not be too productive or beneficial for you. When I first found out some of this stuff, I was up for days, just completely unable to sleep, researching all of this back end, and it just got speculative, took up too much of my time, made me really stressed out, and ultimately left me uncertain and confused. So I'm going to do my best to leave all those parts out and just tell you the good things that you need to know so that you have a right relationship and perspective of money. And that is that money is not real. The first time I heard someone say this, it was Robert Kiyosaki. I had no idea what he was talking about. I actually downloaded a picture that said money is not real, and I made that my wallpaper or my screensaver. I pondered it. I was like, man, what in the world? Why did this guy say this? If this is true, then all of my problems relating to money aren't real either. As I've shared several times now, it was really important for my wife and I that she be a stay-at-home mom, and I couldn't swing it on the salary that I was on. So I was offended the first time I heard that money is not real, and I forced myself to think about it, to figure it out, to get my hands on enough information, wisdom, books, knowledge, whatever you want to call it, until I finally figured this out. So if there is no other takeaway, then you need to know this. Money, not real at all. Why am I saying that? Let's talk about it. So let's imagine a world. I'm no historian. I don't know how accurate these things are, but it doesn't really matter. Let's just take away all understanding that we have of money. Put yourself in a world where money does not exist. How are you going to make it through the day? How are you going to find a place to live? How are you going to feed your family? If you think back to castle days, I know that's like a caste system, and again, I'm not trying to get back into that. I'm just trying to get us on the same page so that we could use the same visuals and hopefully make it through this kind of abstract thought. So let's say we're in that medieval time, right? Knights, blacksmiths, shepherds, all of those. All right, so let's say that you needed food. You needed to feed your family. Money doesn't exist, so how are you going to convince somebody to give you food? There's a farmer around, so what can you do for the farmer so that he will give you some of his crops or some of his cattle? Well, let's say you do know how to build a house. You're a carpenter, you've got, skills, you can work with wood, you can build this man a house. You could build him a shed. You could build him a barn. Now you say, I've got this skill of building homes. I need food. So you approach the farmer and you say, hey, buddy, I really need some food. I don't want you to just give it to me. I'm not asking that. But hey, I know how to build stuff. Can I build you a house in exchange for some crops and a cow? What would the farmer say? Largely dependent on whether or not he needs a house, right? I could make these examples all day, but I think that visual just shows, hey, I'll build you a house in exchange for a cow, right? You're giving somebody value and they're giving you what you need. It's the same value. The cow and the crops are just as valuable as building the house, right? Does that make sense? The actual paper money that we're talking about is completely different and separate from value. Value exists apart from money. If all of the money in the world were to disappear, we could still make ends meet. The money, the actual paper stuff that you and I exchange, or just swiping the cards these days, that is just an easier way to bottle up building a house, to bottle up crops, to bottle up a cow and exchange it without having to haul around a cow or haul around all of the building materials to build a house, right? So it makes trading easier because the money is supposed to, in theory, capture or be equivalent to the value. So now if you were to go forward from our imaginary time where currency did not exist and you're tired of lugging around cows or building materials, then you try to figure out, how can I capture the value of this without having to haul around the physical objects that I need for trading? Well, we need something that is very mobile, that's easy to carry around, and we also need something that has value in and of itself. This is why a lot of those older periods, we see a bunch of coinage, right? So the metals that are used in the coins, it's really small, you can carry it around, it's dense, and it has value. So since the metal is rare, since it is precious, since people appreciate it, then it stores value. And now, instead of taking the cow and exchanging it for a house, you can sell the cow for a few coins, and then you can go out and give those coins to someone to build you a house. Are you tracking on this? We could get into much more detail about this, but I don't want to, because here is the part where our modern day comes in, and this is where we could really go down tons of rabbit holes. And like I've said before, you're most certainly going to want to double check, go through, verify this, listen to other YouTube videos, read other books about this, and figure out what you want to believe for yourself. In 1913, our wonderful President Woodrow Wilson kind of drafted the Federal Reserve into existence. Now, the Federal Reserve exists apart from the government. It is a privately owned entity. Now, the Federal Reserve is where all of the paper money comes from. All of our dollar bills are printed by the Federal Reserve. Well, in 1971, what our even better president, Nixon, did is he took America off the gold standard. So prior to 1971, all of the paper money that we printed was backed by physical gold because, as we discussed earlier, the metal, being precious, was a great tool to package up the wealth, or to package up the value, and then exchange it for things of actual value. So the coins had real value because people wanted it, because it was a symbol of wealth, because there's tons of value, because the metals are scarce. You could turn it into jewelry, you could turn it into coins, and most importantly, you could trade it for things that you need to live comfortably. Well, in 1971, when we went off that standard, what is our money backed by now? The answer is nothing. The Federal Reserve, again, further reading if you want to, they essentially can print as much money as they want to, which is what you're seeing now in this pandemic. Where did the $2 trillion come from? This new stimulus package that they're working up at the moment, at the time of this video, hasn't been released yet, is $3 trillion. Where does that money come from, and what supports that is actual value? Nothing. It's not real. It's paper. So the actual dollars that we're talking about, the idea of money, break it down, value exists. We need things like cows and homes. What we don't need are printed dollars, right? You can get a lot of these printed dollars at the time. Right now, you can still exchange these dollars for things of value, but these dollars in and of themselves have no value other than they are printed on paper, which paper is abundant. You could make your own paper. Okay, and again, I don't want to get too in depth of all of this. I just want to be as broad and use giant general strokes through this just to get the overarching point across that money is not real and we shouldn't be focused on or chase dollars. We have to shift our focus on value and how do we do things like provide cows, provide homes or services, and regularly have people that need that are willing to give us other things of value. Money is kind of a good catalyst to do that right now, but the money itself that is not real. It doesn't exist. The paper is worthless. We really need to absorb that, understand that, and respect that. Okay, so now that we've discussed all of this, what I want you to understand, and the way I want you to shift your mind now, is whenever you hear anyone say something like, I can't afford that, I don't have enough money, what I want you to start hearing and understanding is they're not talking about, while they're talking about this paper currency, but what they're actually saying to you, the things that you should start hearing is, I'm sorry, I can't provide enough value to ever get something like that. I'm sorry, I don't have enough skills in order to achieve that. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll never live in a house that big. I don't have enough money. What you need to hear is, I can't have a house that big because I can't provide the world with enough value to earn that. Do you hear the difference in that a little bit? What's that do to your head? Comment, let me know. I'm interested in how this is received. I think I'm explaining this a decent way, but I want to hear your thoughts on this because this is a big deal. Because now if you shift your focus from actually just grabbing dollars or getting a bunch of money or having this stockpile of paper or having this giant number in your bank account just sitting there, what I want you to start seeing is the actual value behind that. What value did you provide to the world? So now when you start thinking about money and you start seeing large dollar signs, is you need to start thinking, how much value does that provide to the world? What type of problems does that solve for the world? Because Elon Musk just recently said that the amount of money that you make is completely and directly tied to the level of problem that you solve for society. So now that we've kind of framed it that way, I want you to think of what types of jobs do people work and what are the dollar amounts prescribed to those jobs? Because those dollar amounts prescribed to the jobs is indicative of the value that society places to that. Now there are crazy discrepancies, right? Because there are certain services, there are certain like civil duties, like teaching and law enforcement and firefighters and the military, where you're actually putting your lives on the line and nobody can ever pay you for that appropriately. All right, so the biggest actionable thing, the biggest takeaway of this video is just understanding that money is not real. Start thinking about all of this. What does a millionaire really mean? It means that you have provided a certain level of value to society. Yes, there are hiccups in that. Yes, there's a little bit of unfairness out there. Yes, there's a little bit of discrepancy between like the actual dollar amount and the actual value provided to society. But by and large, you can safely view how much money someone has to how much value they're providing to society. Some good books that you can read along these lines, The Creature from Jekyll Isle, Robert Kiyosaki's Fake, and for that matter, pretty much anything that's written by Robert Kiyosaki. He's done a phenomenal job at explaining money and how to make a lot of it and how to never run out of it. So you should most certainly check him out if you've never heard of him. After you read Fake, I would also highly recommend that you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's a very awesome book that you'll have tons of takeaways from. All right, so thank you so much. Type in the comments, reach out to me if you have any questions, any points of clarification that you would like, and any of your thoughts around this. I know this is more of an abstract concept, but this is incredibly important to just setting up the framework and wrapping your head around, okay, how can I make more money? How can I provide more value to society? Because if you are not where you want to be, then you can, assume that you don't have the right mindset, that you haven't taken control of all your surroundings and actions appropriately. And as far as this goes, you can also assume that you don't have the proper view of money. Money is not real. Think on this until you make it true and understand exactly what I mean by that in your head. Thanks so much, guys. Can't wait to talk to you soon.